you'd be curious about. So can you please describe what prompted you to join the Imran Khan and what advice did you give to those who are making similar to this all those years ago?
Sorry. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Firstly, Sadaka and everybody. What do you prefer, English or Urdu?
Anything. Anything. Urdu.
Okay. So, first of all, to the entire team of the Oxford members, to all the students, to the non-students, I want to say thank you for inviting me. It's a real honor. And I was about to leave for Dubai earlier, but I had committed on this, and it really was a privilege for me to come here. So, I made sure that I could attend. And the main bit is that, Oxford University as a PTI worker, leader, it's also the university of my mentor, brother, leader, champion, and captain of Pakistan, Imran Khan. And I pray that inshallah there's people in this room that will even go far more, many miles further than what Imran Khan has achieved in his life for his country. So hopefully this will bring a lot of sort of insight to what's happening. As far as the question goes, I was born and bred in UK, and although later in my business career I started getting involved in British politics, which wasn't the most exciting thing in the world compared to Pakistani politics. And I became friends with Khan Saab in 2008 is when I met him for dinner. I met him previously, but in 2008 my family had independently joined Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. And when he had come to London, a very dear friend, a mutual friend, introduced us and we went for dinner. And for somehow we clicked, and then for about a good, I would say 10 years, Khan Saab kept picking at me that money is a means to an end. It's not the destination, and you have to start doing something for your country. Now, go back to Pakistan. You have to come back. And at that time, I had no interest in politics. But Imran Khan is such an inspiration in all sense of the word, in every field, in everything you do, that slowly and gradually the political dressing sort of weared off on me, and by 2015 I realized that I'm basically in knee deep, and by 2018 I was in full-fledged. I was the campaign manager for his Islamabad constituency, and then from there never looked back.
So, Mr. Bukhari, many politicians in Pakistan, including Mr. Khan himself, have said that politics in Pakistan is not a career, but a calling. It's no secret that in our 76-year-old history, not a single prime minister has served their full term without being removed, imprisoned, or worse. So then what made you realize your calling?
Well, I think a calling comes from some form of inspiration. And in my case, I guess, I consider myself, if I look back maybe 20 years from now, I will consider myself one of the luckiest people in the world because I had my calling directly from the chairman of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, Imran Khan. I don't think everyone can say that. So I consider myself blessed because I spent a lot of time with him. And so, like I said, he kept pushing me towards it. And then I started realizing that I would go to office and I would concentrate on my business, and I realized that my concentration towards business is just lessening. And it was because my mind was in Pakistan, it was on politics, it was on, this was a movement. What Imran Khan, and I'm sure there's history students here and political students, what Imran Khan has achieved in 27 years of his political career is a movement. From Germany to UK to America, there's no other person of a population of above 80 to 100 million that has ever broken a two-party system. And the way that he has broken it is that not only did he break a two-party system, his party also became the largest political party and the most grassroots level entrenched party in the entire country. So it's not about my calling. My calling was I got rolled up and involved and in his movement. And I genuinely believe that, forget Imran Khan that he became prime minister, didn't become prime minister, but what he's achieved in terms of mindset of every single Pakistani, including yourselves, maybe this wouldn't have been the mindset, the people, the way that you guys are concerned about Pakistan now, the way you follow every single person, event in Pakistan now. This wasn't really there even 10 years ago. This is a recognition, this awareness has come, despite even if you are PTI or not, it's only become because of Imran Khan. And if you guys watch all the TV channels, apart from Orthogo, the most popular thing in Pakistan was ARYOGO. And no one used to watch drama series as much as they watched the chat shows at night because they were like dog fights. And you would go at each other and they were the most entertaining things. But when we came into power, what it created was that every single night, what we didn't see before, there were, end on end, there were shows on the economy. And no other party 10 years ago, Noon League in 2013 or PPP in 2008, didn't have to face chat shows on chat shows just based on particular aspects of the economy. This created awareness. This made every single person study every single deal, every single movement that's going on in the government. And I think this is all solely, without being biased, I genuinely mean this, because it's not necessarily we all have to support PTI, but no one can deny that this awareness was created by Imran Khan.
Yes. I would now like to pass on to Asad to speak to you more about the role of the military establishment in Pakistan today.
Thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. Mr. Bukhari, any discussion in Pakistani politics is incomplete without addressing the elephant in the room, the Pakistani military. Former relationship characterized by collaboration on issues such as accountability and foreign policy, one in which General Bajwa is accused of colluding with the PDM to depose your government. There are a variety of speculations as to why the military is rumored to have changed its stance. From your internal perspective, what chain of events led to the deterioration in a once strong relationship?
First of all, Asad, मुझे वापस भी जाना है. So I will do it that I am able to go back to my country because I've been living in exile for the last 6 months. But on a serious note, just before I answer your question, let me just give you a little bit of context. The Pakistan Army and National Forces, they run about a cumulative something close to about 45% of the private sector of Pakistan. Now, when you sit in cabinet meetings and you are deciding which industry or which sector is getting subsidies, let it be cement, steel, fertilizer, land, toilet paper, cereal, you name it. Everything is some way or the other is linked, or the biggest supplier or the manufacturer of it in the country, or the biggest landholding in the country is owned by the armed forces of Pakistan, in particular the army. So, you need to understand that from their perspective, they have a lot of sweat equity into every single decision that the cabinet of that time is making. 45% roughly, give or take, of the private sector is no big deal, is no small joke or deal. It's massive. It means that you are basically running the country irrespective of you being the army, weaponized, and the strongest and the biggest institution in the country. You actually are the most powerful economically as well. So that gives you, I wanted to give you a context of what their stakes are. So if you are an army general, you will always feel threatened if something's not going your way on the stakes of your institution, and rightly so. If I'm a businessman and if I own 12% of the energy sector, I will be very concerned with every single policy the government is making, and if I feel it's not the right policy for the sector, I will do anything I can to remove that minister or change that policy. So I'm trying to give you a context of the way that they see it before we come on to the way we see it. Also, to add to that, over 70 odd years, they have seen, barring maybe one or two, very uninspiring kind of leaders. They've seen leaders come in who have looted the country and taken the money out. They've seen people come in who have just ended up killing each other and again looted it and made every single institution redundant. The armed forces didn't make our institutions or bureaucracy redundant. The politicians did. So if you look at their perspective, or if you look at any normal Pakistani civilian's perspective, the army has never ever really seen a politician that has actually wanted to do complete good towards the country. Now, coming to our side, the politician's side, we believe that at the end of the day, like you rightly said, no prime minister has ever completed his or her 5-year term. Only 2 governments, if I'm not mistaken, have completed their entire term in office. Every single time there's either a coup or there's a semi-coup or a formal coup to remove the prime minister in office. What that does, it sets the country back at least a decade every single time. And so when you are not there, if you look at any successful country in our region, regardless if they've had ups and downs, but generally their graph has gone upwards when the leaders come in. If you look at Bangladesh, you've had Sheikh Hasina there for 15 odd years. If you look at President Erdogan, you've had him there for, I think, 15 odd years. If you looked at Malaysia, you had Mahathir there for so long. If you look at the Arab countries, you've got a continuity with monarchy for a long period of time. So if you look at all these countries, their progress has come with consistency. And the one thing Pakistan lacks is consistency. It doesn't matter if it's a Noon League leader or if it's a Pakistan People's Party leader or if it's a Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf leader. I genuinely, hand in heart, feel that if this election, which it isn't, but if this election could have been a free and fair, transparent election, whichever party would come in, they should be allowed their full tenure to perform, and then a democratic process should take place, and the new government should come in. That allows parties to make policies for 10, 15 years, like President Erdogan and Sheikh Hasina and others have done. The problem with Pakistan is, the problem with the disruption or the invasion of the political space that the army takes over becomes very difficult for them to make any medium to long-term policies. They make policies that ye ab 2 saal mein hum jaldi se kar lein. First 2 years we will try to do a disruptive policy to make change, and the next 2 to 3 years we only concentrate on trying to win the elections. So we need policies, subsidies, grants, and things that are going to make us popular in the masses. And usually the policies that make you popular in the masses aren't usually the right one, especially in developing countries where you have to be far more disruptive with things. So, in short, you would then look at when we came into power. I think our vision exactly was spot on. We were exactly on the same page with the military. The differences started becoming later on when it was about appointments, when it was about policies, and to be very fair, we had COVID in our government whilst we were in government for about 24 odd months, 2 years. COVID hit us quite badly, although we tackled it far better than a lot of other countries. But in those two years, like the rest of the world, inflation grew. At that time, I remember I used to go to my constituency and people used to say to us, don't come to your constituency. PTI is very unpopular. We will never win another election. Inflation is at its peak, and this is the worst that any government has ever performed. At that time, the dollar was at 170 rupees per dollar. Today it's 360 rupees a dollar. But at that time, people thought that was the worst. And we kept telling them that, trust me, we're doing far better than anyone else can. And after we left, until today, the dollar, when the highest point of us was 193 rupees for the dollar, and now it went up to nearly close to 400 and now bounced back to about 360. So our differences started that the army started interfering and saying that we are not running the economy well, we have no idea about the economy, and perhaps in their mind or in General Bajwa Saab's mind, he felt that Shahbaz Sharif is a massive doer, which was his reputation, but that he's a phenomenal administrator and he's a great executor of things, taking his track record from Punjab. What they failed to understand is that when your big brother in the federal gives you money to spend on orange trains and bridges and roads, and spending the money is very easy, making the money sitting in the prime minister's seat and earning money for the country and then deploying it into the provinces is a complete different job, which is now, again, trying to sound as academic and unbiased as possible, is the proof is in the pudding. It's as obvious. It was a diabolical 18-odd months of administration that the Shahbaz Sharif government led.
Thank you. So you've mentioned about the political instability and the changes and what's happened to Pakistan's economy over the last 2 years. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the solutions to this problem. So your critics accuse the PTI of colluding with the establishment in 2018 to form a coalition government. And it now appears that the very forces which orchestrated Nawaz Sharif's ouster in 2017 are now facilitating his return to power. And we've mentioned that this repetitive political engineering has contributed to instability and it's been incredibly damaging to the country's economy. So in light of this, are you open to the concept of a bipartisan and coordinated effort, including those parties that Imran Khan deems to be corrupt, to redefine the role of the army chief in Pakistan? And just how viable do you think this is, given the extreme political polarization at the moment?
At the moment, it's impossible. I don't think redefining the role is going to be possible for any political party, because to redefine a role of the most powerful person in the country, you really need to have the majority behind you. And the only way you can do that is by having a 2/3 majority, and then having the will to do it, and having the right army personnel at the top core willing to give in to certain things which will be impediment to their armed forces and Pakistan. Across the border in India, the army chief is never elected from the prime minister. He has an automatic selection based on seniority. Whoever is the senior most goes and becomes the army chief. Hence, you don't have this months or years of lobbying, of causing up to generals, or generals causing up to prime ministers, or to MNAs, or to ministers, because there's no fight. The senior most ends up becoming the leader of the Indian Armed Forces. This happens in many countries, and I think it's probably, in my personal and humble opinion, I think it's probably the right approach for Pakistan in the future. Plus, I feel that the Indian Army chief doesn't wield the same kind of power because he doesn't have the same kind of platoons underneath him. He doesn't hold the same kind of volume of men directly underneath him. The power is more devolved between other top general personnel. So, perhaps one of the ways to go forward is that it should be the senior most. So this whole thing that am I becoming the army chief? Am I getting an extension? Can kind of be put to rest. And I think it will be better for the army because the generals will fight less and they'll kind of know what is happening next, and they're geared up for it. And I think if you look at all the different institutions within the army, a lot can be passed on to the Joint Chief and others, which on paper they are, but in practicality they don't. And I think if that power devolves a little bit more lower down, I think it'll help becoming more functional. The problem with politicians and us politicians and parties is that we too get into power. There's an old inherent 70-year habit of us closing up to whoever is in the army chief seat, and that may give you short-term benefits, but I think history has now proven that it gives you more long-term harm towards it. And I think now it's just about time where one thing for certain that I can say, as a spokesman for my party, is that one thing we can come on the same page with every other party with is on the fact to endorse democracy. And that's the one thing that we can always talk about, how to endorse free and fair elections and how to empower democracy in the country. That is one thing that we can also on the table.
Absolutely. So I want to take the discussion on to the events which took place after your government's ouster. So the 9th of May is without doubt an extremely significant turning point in your party's history. Imran Khan was illegally arrested from the premises of Islamabad High Court, which triggered a series of nationwide protests. And unfortunately, these culminated in acts of arson to civil and military property, on the basis of which the establishment is accused of starting a crackdown against your party's leadership. Now, I'm not going to do the cliched thing of asking you to condemn the 9th of May, as I'm sure you've been asked to do so many times before. But what would your message be to those who have branded Imran Khan as an anti-state element?
I have had and I haven't spoken since that I was taking our government, but I had as a minister and then even otherwise I had a very friendly and good relationship with General Bajwa Sahab. And I will categorically say this, and I'm sure he's honorable enough not to deny it ever, but on every single conversation with him, it all started with that Imran Khan is my icon, and Imran Khan is my hero. And not only as a politician, but the way he looks, the way he walks. I remember him saying to me, "Ki wo jo sweater pehna tha, I feel like wearing that sweater." So this anti-state person, few months prior, was your childhood hero, an icon as you grew up. As far as it goes for trying to change, I think May 9th was tried to create a scenario which would be a game changer to make Imran Khan and sections of our factions of our party look anti-state, or put the rhetoric that we are sort of a militant outfit. The point is that May 9th, from Imran Khan at the top to a party worker, every single person has categorically condemned the May 9th attacks. I have no harm doing it over and over again, but I'm not going to do the second bit of the press conference and say I'm leaving Imran Khan. But I'll say the first bit for sure, that we condemn May 9th, but at the same time, we condemn even a shopkeeper if his window is broken. If his shop front is broken, or if someone's on a radio or a cart, or a taxi driver's taxi is burned or broken, or his windows are broken, we condemn that as well. So we condemn in 27 years of political practice of Imran Khan, he has always condemned violence. And not only violence in his political ethos, but also violence in that he went back into parliament after he resigned from parliament just to stop the Yemen war. He condemned invasion in Iraq, he condemned invasion in Syria, Yemen, he went back into parliament. On local levels, even on May 25th, when we were, the year before, when we did the long march, not May, but when we did the long march to Islamabad, he turned around because he felt there was a threat of violence and people were going to hurt. So Imran Khan is one person who no one can ever say that he's pro-violence. What happened on May 9? The tragic events of May 9 was that the most popular and dignified man in Pakistan was manhandled, illegally arrested and detained, grabbed from the back of his shirt and his waistcoat by I don't know how many police officers in different forces, as if he was some terrorist, not three guys coming politely, Mr. Prime Minister or former Prime Minister, please step aside. No absolute sort of civilized approach, manhandled, thrown into a police truck and taken away. The response of people was that they were upset. And because they were upset, they unfortunately, and I say again, unfortunately and tragically, their emotions got the better of them, and they took the law into their hands, which they shouldn't have. Now, that said, take action against what the appropriate action is for vandalism, because that's what it was, and take appropriate action for that. And if it is that now we're going to turn this narrative into that this is anti-state and this is against, God forbid, the Pakistan army, then here you have a man coming back into Pakistan who landed after he's been in exile for about 3-4 years on corruption charges, convicted by the Supreme Court of Pakistan, the highest court of the land, runs away from Pakistan saying that he has an illness and his platelets went up and all of that. Then he came here, and then now he's come back, and Imran Khan hearings are getting postponed and adjourned on the basis that there's legality of getting biometrics done, fingerprinting done. My colleagues can't step out of the house because they're getting arrested. They can't even attend their court hearings because they'll get arrested to court. But here, all the court personnel has come to Islamabad airport, done all the formalities of a court at the Islamabad airport for a convicted criminal who should have come back and gone straight to prison, and then legally fought his case from prison. And if he gets bail and he gets, whatever, then good on him, and that's for the courts to decide. Does all of that, and this is the same man, my point being, is that this is the same man, that this is not me saying it, but General Pervez Musharraf was the Chief of Army Staff of the Pakistan Army at the time. Nawaz Sharif was the ruling Prime Minister. The Chief of Army Staff categorically came on national television and said that he has tried to down my plane, and hence I'm putting a martial law into Pakistan. He said I was in the air, he tried to kill me with maybe 200, 250 other passengers on the plane, army personnel, bureaucracy, probably ADC from the Air Force, ADC from the Navy, and civilians most of all. And he tried to down his plane, meaning killing 300 odd people. So here's a guy who has tried to kill the Chief of Army Staff and 300 people along with him. A martial law comes in for 10 years. Then that's forgiven, and he's back in power. Then he's convicted as a criminal for corruption, and now he's back in power. So this guy is not anti-state, who tried to kill 300 people, right? It's something that probably a terrorist group does, right? And killed the army chief. But Imran Khan, who is in prison, surrounded by every single agency and security force whilst he's in prison, is now being blamed for something that overexcited and over-emotional people went and did whilst he was in prison the few hours after he was arrested. The few hours after. And Imran Khan is being blamed for that. If this can make any form of logic to any sane human being, then perhaps we're good.
So I wanted to discuss the decline in civil-military relations which is taking place. Many PTI supporters, and indeed Imran Khan himself in a recent Economist article, they've alleged that the events which took place on the 9th of May were a false flag operation, citing the lack of security outside military installations and the speed with which a crackdown was initiated. This is in addition to other serious allegations the military faces, including the torture of journalists and the attempt on Imran Khan's life himself. So with that in mind, do the long-term implications of a permanent breakdown in civil-military relations concern Imran Khan and yourself?
Yeah, of course they do, massively. In the past, when things like this have happened, obviously you guys are a lot younger, but you guys are all students of politics or history, and I'm sure your parents have told you as well. But in the past, this is not a new thing. It's far more aggressive than it's ever been in the past. But whenever it's happened in the past, the difference is that the political person that it's happened to, he isn't or she isn't as popular as Imran Khan is today. Where this thing has taken a whole massive turn, and perhaps, unexpectedly, maybe, the establishment were unexpectedly taken back, and this has now not gone in their favor and only made Imran Khan more popular, is that they didn't realize the pull and the sympathies Imran Khan held with the people of Pakistan, in and outside of the country. So this was an unseen phenomenon. I remember when our government went, we had Imran Khan called an emergency meeting, and me, naively, at the time, I was, you could say, was very concerned and emotional that our government just fell. And I said to Khan Sahib, I said, where are the people? Why have the people not come out? And, because you can't manufacture a natural resistance or a natural sort of protest. And that night, I remember me, Hamad Azhar, I think Fawad Chaudhry was with us, and we went back home to eat. And on the way, we just started seeing thousands and thousands of people in Islamabad just take to the streets. And it was totally unexpected, and thousands of people just swarmed Islamabad and other cities in Pakistan, and they did a peaceful protest of waving PTI flags and so on and so forth, and that started the whole momentum from that night onwards for our movement of the 18 months after. The breakdown of what you're saying, I think, is extremely worrying. The army is our army, it's not India's army. It needs to be, for any political party, it needs to be your closest ally. I have no qualms in saying that. Reason being is, like I said at the very beginning, is that they are the biggest stakeholders in probably every single main sector of the economy. So if you're not going to have them by your side, you're not going to get any work done. So if you really want to do work, you have to have them by your side, and you have to navigate your way through. There are some fights you will pick, and there are some fights you should not pick. And it takes time to build that relationship. Having said that, until there's real introspect about that, do we want Pakistan to remain democratic, then that democratic space has to be given. Pakistan politics has changed drastically in the last 20 years. In all parties, you're saying new leadership come up, and they need to be given a chance, and they need to be given their space. And the only way politics and the politicians will improve in Pakistan is if they have longevity and they have that space. Reason being is that if I feel that my political stint in the next term is also going to be 3 years, I'm just going to play a T20. Right? I'm going to try to hit every ball out the park, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to care less about anything else. But if you really want people to give in to compassion for the country and the people, you actually need to give them time to have planned policies, which you have to sit with your armed forces and deal with. So confrontation is not going to get you anywhere at all, ever. That is a given. So I don't think that's the route that we should be ever looking towards, and nor are we looking towards. As far as it goes, sorry, as a false flag operation, look, there are always going to be question marks that at the end of the day, Jinnah House and the Corps Commander House is a very, it's one of the highest sort of places for the army homes, and the biggest, general of the army lives there in that particular area. So you would expect a lot more security to handle any kind of mob or irregular activity that happens on any day, on any occasion, right? So you would do it even if Imran Khan wasn't arrested that day, but there should always be enough security in a high-level, general's place for any introvert activity, let alone on the day when the biggest leader of the country is being manhandled and arrested. So where was it? Is a question to be asked.
Absolutely. I wanted to now pass back to Ali to speak to you about the deteriorating human rights situation in Pakistan and PTI's strategy in forthcoming elections.
Yeah, absolutely. So, since the fall of your government, we've experienced a dramatic decline in human rights in Pakistan. I'll just give you a couple of examples. We've seen the assassination of military critic and journalist Arshad Sharif. We've seen the brutal killing and torture of specially able protesters in the Shah. We've seen mistreatment and victimization of female protesters and female workers in PTI, and many, many more cases. And since the 9th of May, this trend has accelerated. And it's become apparent that members of your party are being given ultimatums to give up politics for their freedom. How do you view the silence of Western governments amidst such unprecedented levels of human rights violations. And with this platform in Oxford University, do you have a message for the Western governments about what's going on in Pakistan today?
Yeah, great question. Look, at one point we had 13,000 people in prison, men, women, and children. If the main leader can't be caught, his brothers, his sisters, his cousin, uncle, everyone thrown in. People abducted, beaten, stripped naked, hung upside down, you name it, everything was done. From top tier leadership to Imran Khan's chief of staff, to Shahbaz Gill and others as well. And then they were forced to give those, press conferences that you were trying to make me do against Imran Khan and the party. Now, we after that, even women like Ayla Hamza, Ali Hamza, Khatida Shah, who was just a peaceful protester driving around, and she got picked up. Yasmin Rashida Saiba, she's not only a cancer survivor, she's a 70-year-old, most well-regarded woman, and especially in the doctor field and everything. She's known as such a good human being. She's an elected member of parliament. She's still in prison. So is Alia, so many other women. And the men that aren't giving in and giving a press conference against Imran Khan are also in prison. You saw people getting abducted, badly beaten, and giving forced interviews. The guy who said that we used his papers recently when you used to make your forms for papers, nomination papers, as a backup, we used Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf N, which is Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf Naziyati. That guy was picked up, beaten up, was limping into the press conference literally, and sat down and said, "Oh, I never gave PTI the authority to go do this," although we have signed contract with him. But him limping in kind of said everything. And so we've had all these abuses going on, not being allowed to show any. You cannot even put a PTI flag up on your house, especially in Punjab. So you've had all these abuses of human rights. Now, very few human rights organizations, Amnesty International and others, have written, unfortunately, very little. I'm in charge of international press. We try to push out press as much as we can. We do get it, and I must thank them. A lot of the press has given a lot of coverage especially when something happens to Imran Khan. But in all the other things, there's silence. And as far as it goes for other Western powers or other countries, I will just give, the example of Bangladesh, because they just had their elections. And, if you go down, on your phones, if you go onto Amnesty International, you will see, without exaggeration, you'll probably see more than 30 tweets on Bangladesh and how Bangladesh is, hasn't got transparent democracy, and the opposition has been thrown into prison, and they're beating them or they're jailing them and whatever. And there you've got so many on Bangladesh, but you barely see one in Pakistan, which is like 3 times the size in population, right? And you barely see one. The same goes with that in Bangladesh is a serious issue for the United States of America, because they wanted to put even visa sanctions on them because they weren't fitting the exact outfit of what a democratic country should be. But Pakistan, it's termed as an internal affair. So this hypocrisy, when it comes to that's being used between Pakistan and other countries, is actually what has taught us that I think that is the most worrying. It shows you in what light or in what use does certain countries want Pakistan to be, and how they want to use Pakistan and abuse Pakistan. But when it comes to actually the people's rights, their liberation, and democratic rights, they're not concerned with Pakistan. As long as there's a leader there that not even the president of a powerful superpower has to call, but even an assistant undersecretary calls and picks up the phone, and that should be enough for you to do the job. Unfortunately, Imran Khan wasn't one of those human beings.
So, Mr. Bukhari, in a recent development, the Supreme Court of Pakistan has upheld the decision of the Election Commission to revoke your party's election symbol, the renowned back symbol. Now, this is truly devastating for the PTI election campaign, because in Pakistan, there's a very high illiteracy rate, and 1 in 2 Pakistanis don't even have access to a mobile phone. Many others don't have access to the internet. How will they know what their nominees' symbols are? And so, with voters relying heavily on these symbols, do you regret your party's failure to conduct inter-party elections as per the law? And what are your thoughts on the Supreme Court decision?
Look, first of all, we didn't fail to hold inter-party elections. We held inter-party elections twice, the exact same way as PPP did and Noon League did. They didn't get disqualified, but we did. We held it once, the election commission had objections, we made sure that those objections are fulfilled, and we kept on asking them, do you have any more objections? And they failed to reply, or they failed to give any form of reasoning behind it to start with. We, because of the shortage of time and other, I'm not saying that they're the best inter-party elections, but they fulfilled the criteria of the Election Commission of Pakistan. Hence, PPP and Noon League are allowed to contest in this election because they did the election of their chairman unopposed the exact same way. If someone can tell me who opposed Nawaz Sharif or Shahbaz Sharif for their roles in their respective parties, or who opposed Asif Ali Zardari or Bilawal Bhutto for his positions in the party, then maybe we did something wrong. No one opposed them, they also came unopposed. So where did we go wrong that the Chief Justice of Pakistan could see, but they couldn't see any other on the other party? Look, let's call a spade here. The Chief of Army Staff was our DGISI when we were in power. Him and the Prime Minister at the time, Imran Khan, didn't see eye to eye on certain things, and he was removed from that role. Naturally, in any walks of life, when someone removes you from that job, you're going to keep it in your heart and you're going to be pissed off. And that grudge will most likely, unfortunately, remain there. Chief Justice Qazi Faziza also had a lot of trouble during PTI's time. Rightly or wrongly, I can't comment because I'm not a lawyer. But having said that, he faced a lot of difficulties during PTI's time. So the problem is that we are taking revenge at the cost of 250 million people. You are never ever going to find economic stability in Pakistan unless you have political stability. It's never ever going to happen. As far as it goes for the election symbols, I'm not going to deny that it is a difficulty, especially in our far-flung areas and in all the villages and Balochistan and interior Sindh and Punjab, South Punjab. A lot of these places, a lot of the voters will find a little bit of difficulty. But I will tell you this because my constituency is very backward and it hasn't had much work done to it at all. People, when you come from, a more poverty-struck district, the people that you think that their literacy rate is down or is low, they are far more politically astute than all of us, localized. They may not be on a worldly bird's eye view, but as localized politics, they know it much better than you and I. They know exactly which guy is their SHO. They know exactly which guy is which inspector. They know the family of the inspector, where he was posted before, who posted him there. They know absolutely everything. I go there sometimes and they tell me, remove this guy. I go, how do you know? He was here 16 years ago, his father was here 18 years ago, and he did this. And so they know the whole system around the area because that's how they have to navigate and live. The difference between our country and countries like England is that it's not institutionalized. Tomorrow, when there was a change between Theresa May and Boris Johnson, there was no prime minister in Pakistan, in England, for months. I think 3 months or 2 months. I can't remember exactly. But there was a time when there was no PM. But the country functioned exactly the same. The institutions ran. You could go to the post office. You can go to the police station. In Pakistan, it doesn't work that way. Everything is politicized. So when it's not a political, because everything is politicized, there's no institutions that actually work on their own merit. So hence people take things into their own hands and like you're saying, the illiterate voter, he is more clued on. He becomes more clued on a one-to-one basis with his own surroundings. What the difficulty is going to be is that what I fear is that a lot of your candidates we've put up on the websites, and like you said, not everyone has internet and phone, so they may not know, they'll know who their candidate is, but they may not know what his symbol is. And so then they don't read the name, because they can't read the name, and they look for the symbol, so that's where they're going to get stuck. But the bigger difficulty, and I think the larger threat, even than that is, because I think in that we've also penetrated quite well into the system and shown everyone's electoral symbol. But I think the bigger fear than that is that I think now, and I think mark my words on this, you will start seeing from February, in the last 8 days of this, of maybe even earlier, maybe last few days of this month, you're going to see a very severe case of a crackdown on all the candidates. And so what's going to happen is that a lot of the candidates have pulled back their nominations like I did, and the candidate who is standing will get abducted, and now you won't have a candidate left. And your covering candidate is unknown, right? He's not a famous personality in his constituency. So my fear is greater that you're going to see a lot more arrests, a lot more abductions, a lot more threats, people coming out, getting beaten, PTI guys told to go back home and not to do any corner meetings or any processions or anything of the sort. My fear is that I think the wave is only going to actually, the grip is only going to tighten around us, and you're going to see a lot more arrests coming up, and we're going to lose a lot of candidates, and I think that's what the biggest fear is.
Thank you for that, Mr. Bukhari. And on the topic of arrests and cases, I want to finish on some of the cases against Imran Khan, who is currently facing nearly 200 cases, with some as absurd as allegations that his marriage was unlawful. And what's more interesting is that his trial is currently being undertook within jail, in seclusion from the media, in seclusion from the public. However, if I just switch this question up a little bit and ask you, during his own tenure, the PTI under Imran Khan was also accused of conducting political victimization, with a narcotics case against Rana Sanawallah of particular shock and outrage. Is it not true, Mr. Bukhari, that what goes around comes around?
You guys all know Rana Sanawallah?
Yeah.
Do I need to say more? Look, if the case against Rana Sanawallah was wrong, I wasn't the narcotics minister at the time, so I can't say. But as far as it goes as a cabinet minister at the time, his case is still there with the DG of narcotics is an army personnel. Him and the minister at the time, I think it was Syed Zulfi, they swear by it that it was 100% genuine. I can't comment on the case, but Rana Sanawallah, I will categorically say, is a terrorist. He has at least 18 murders on his hands. He has sectarian issues on his hands. He has I think 8 actual murder cases against him. He's involved in all sorts of things in the Qusur scandal as well. His name came in with abuse to children and other things. So I'm just trying to give you a context of the human being. Okay, so if he sells heroin or not, I don't know. But the dude's pretty bad anyways, right? He's got a lot of other things going on not his way. So, is he a drug peddler and stuff? God forbid I ever put a blame on someone if he's not. But that goes for Rana Sanawallah. And I'm telling this personally because I've dealt with him. Me and him go head to head quite a lot. But the thing is that if you're going to say that it was apple to what happened in our regime, I want you then to first ask all the journalists across the board that how many of them were killed, abducted for long periods of time or tortured, fired from their jobs, not allowed to speak. When was Nawaz Sharif's name from the election campaign omitted? Election symbol intact. Apart from, I think, Rawalpindi's Hanif Abbasi, apart from that, which other main leader was not allowed to contest in the 2018 elections? Shahid Khan Abbasi, SN Iqbal, all of them, you name them. They all contested elections. I ran the Islamabad campaign, and I was fighting against running against the ex-Prime Minister of Pakistan, Shahid Abbasi. Did he have any issues on him? Did any of the Noon League leadership, apart from the one Pindi gentleman, and that's because he had, again, another drugs case on him, prior to us. These cases weren't, that case wasn't done by us, it was prior to us, and the gentleman against him. But if you look at PPP in Sindh, how many of PPP's rulers were in prison at the time? None, barely any. Only ones that were the ones that were fighting cases from before. We weren't even in power. So there's no way, and again, I swear to you, I'm not saying our government was perfect in any way, shape, or form. And I'm sure we did a lot of things which, as a government, and I say we because, you know, when you've got to take it collectively. And we did things which at the time we were probably given wrong intelligence or information on. And maybe we took the wrong decisions at the time, but nothing. I mean, not even 1% close to what you're seeing today. You go to Pakistan today, it's an atmosphere of suffocation. There is nothing at any point in time that Pakistan was like that under Imran Khan. If anything, every single indicator of the economy and overseas Pakistan is going back, and remittances, and any other indicator you want to see, indicated that Pakistan was actually going towards an upward trajectory. So none of these things clearly were even comparable to what I'm not saying they weren't perfect again, but they 100% weren't even anything close to what is happening today in Pakistan. And the cases against Imran Khan are more ridiculous than even the one that you mentioned. He was charged for a murder case while sitting in Islamabad for a murder of someone in Balochistan, Quetta. So in Quetta, he was charged for a murder, which then got thrown out. So every single thing against him was there. I'm a witness in Imran Khan's marriage, by the way. And, you know, the husband at the time didn't know that he was in the Iddat period. Then he gets abducted for a week or two. And then he comes back and he realized 4 years later that it was in Iddat period. Sorry, 5 years later that it was in Iddat period. But before that, for 5 years, he was driving Bentleys up and down, and you know, he had a young wife and all. So he was all cool. But then now all of a sudden he's realized, you know, 2 weeks into before the elections that, you know, shit, my wife married during Iddat period. But for 5 years, he was the happiest bunny ever. So, you know, it's as ridiculous as this. And you only have cases like Iddat against you when you know that you have nothing on him in terms of financial or any other kind of corruption. That is the only reason. So I actually think that Imran Khan should be really proud that using all your might, using all the form of intelligence that the agencies have, the one thing they're trying to pinpoint on you with full force is Iddat. That is actually a compliment to how clean financially Imran Khan is as a human being.
I'll now pass on to us for concluding questions.
Yeah, thank you, Ali. So, before I give you concluding remarks, your tenure in government was marked by achievements such as the internationally recognized smart lockdown policy and your welfare program, most of all, which was even praised by Stanford University. If Imran Khan is able to beat the odds, as he has in the past, and secure a second term as Prime Minister,
Inshallah.
what would you seek to reform in your approach to government, whether that concerns policy making or your handling of certain appointments?
I think where we lacked in, and I say this especially to all the youth, the point is that when you run a government, from the little experience that I had, but I was in the deep end, so I feel that I got a lot of experience, is in the government, you can never wait to get everything perfect because time runs fast. So if you look at it as a businessman, if you're doing 10 different programs, or you're doing 10 different initiatives, even out of the 10, even if 6 you hit a home run in and they're good, you've done very, very well. The worst thing in running a government is not doing anything at all. Worse than actually financial corruption to a bureaucrat to speed up your file is actually the bureaucrat sitting on that file for 2 months or 2 years and doing nothing with it. That is worse than paying someone money to fast track the job that you need done. in my opinion. And I think across the board, people that want to get work done will know that it is. I think what we need to do next time in government is that we need to have a better implementation arm. Let it be an implementation ministry that picks up about 20 of the top initiatives of the Prime Minister, and they only stick to those 20 initiatives. And I'm talking big initiatives. What Saudi wants to do with you, what Qatar wants to do with you, what the United States wants to do with you. And that ministry should just concentrate on these big wins. And I think we should pick about 3 to 4 sectors, and the Prime Minister should only work on to make those 3 sectors far more improved than where they are in his 5-year term. The problem in our government, and I wouldn't say problem with Imran Khan, or the issue with Imran Khan's leadership, I can say, is that Imran Khan is an absolute purist. So if you turn his head this way and he sees something wrong, he'll attack it. And you turn his head this way and he sees something wrong, he'll go for it. So he then tries to put out too many fires. As a government, we were trying to fight too many fires and putting out too many fires at the same time, which wasn't possible with the redundant machinery that a government has. So hence, you need to pick your battles, and you need to pick your sectors that say education, health and employment or something. And you pick those through, and the Prime Minister should only be focused on those 3, and he should not let his attention divert even the slightest. And he should just hammer those 3 home for 5 years and win his next election based on his performance of those 3 sectors. And in the next term, when you're much better advanced with your bureaucracy around you, you know that Assad's a good bureaucrat, so you'll keep him here in this ministry next time, you know so-and-so's good, you know so-and-so's good. So you'll have a better bureaucratic circle around you, and you'll be able to increase the sectors that you can improve far better and easier and faster. The problem is that you try to do too much at once, and you're surrounded by a lot of redundant weight, which actually can't do much work.
Thank you, Mr. Bukhari, for your concluding remarks. As a Pakistani, it is my wish that the country progresses away from political engineering, and that if Imran Khan is given a second term, he's able to bring an end to such destructive politics. Amr bil Maruf wa nahi anil munkar, enjoin good and forbid evil. I remember the profound impact of these words from the Quran, spoken by Imran Khan before his ouster from government. Regardless of your views, it is important that as collective members of this institution, that we platform those who've been victim to great injustice. And I'm incredibly proud that we've been able to do so today. I would now like to open the floor to Q&A from the audience, and I look forward to your participation in this historic discussion. Thank you.
So please raise your hand if you have any questions.
Thank you, Zulfikar, for being here and for the insight. I have few questions. They're all connected, and I'm afraid they are quite critical as well. But that is not to say that because of any bias. I think the fact that Imran Khan is in jail, I think this should not be happening and should be conducted always in how the law is being recognized. So before I go into those, I think a few things I do want to correct some factual inaccuracies for some people who basically may not be students of history of Pakistan. I don't think it's correct to say that Musharraf was trying to kill, he was trying to replace with another military general. There is nothing in the history of Pakistan from any source academics that would say that they tried to kill Musharraf. So to say that will be factually incorrect. In the same way to say that Bangladesh population is twice the population of Pakistan, actually it's not. Pakistan's highest populations in Bangladesh. Now coming to the questions, I think you rightly highlighted when you said that the root cause is military. And I think that's not for the first time happened in Pakistan, from academia to intelligentsia. We've been saying this, that the pattern started all the way from independence to going in what happened to Zulfikar to Musharraf, to Benazir, and again to Nawaz. So we have seen the same kind of like pattern, and we also know for a large extent that how military had its say in both not only economically, but its hegemony in every sector of Pakistan. Now that brings me then to the first question, is that in 2018 elections, now the things that you said, you were aware of those things. the same government that came into power was accused of coming into power at the behest of military support. And you shook hands with military. So wouldn't it be then saying that by the military getting them out, they had a right because they actually brought Imran Khan to power? And how will you respond to the fact that you actually were the one who shook the hand of the military? But more than that, when opposition parties try to approach Imran Khan, it's quite nice that when you say we should have a solution, all the opposition parties came on the page and said, let's sign the Charter of Democracy. And your government refused. They wanted to say that let's bring the political spectrum together, sign a Charter of Democracy. So what happens is the military rule is eliminated in the governance and the democracy side. Your government refused time and time again, and now I'm glad that you now have the flexibility of all the things happen to be wanting to sign that. And then adding to that question, I think is quite important, is human rights. Yes, they have deteriorated now, but I don't think we should shut eye on, during your government, on human rights. For example, I think...
Sir, can I have your question, please?
So the first question is on how your own alliance was with the military in coming to power. Secondly, in your own times, the human rights were at the worst in Pakistan, but not as worse as now. For the people like Mohsen Ali Wazir were incarcerated for hundreds of cases, despite the Supreme Court giving them bail. Mohsen Dawud, members of the PTM who spoke against the military, your government did not do anything about it. Economically, you were accused of almost going on default. There were no strong policies on economics. And what specific policy do you have on economics now if you come into power? So we'd be grateful to address those part of the things, while also to say that we condemn what's happening now against the PTI is completely wrong. Thank you.
Okay, so there's about 300 questions there. As many as I can. First of all, I didn't say Bangladesh's population is 3 times as much. I said Pakistan's population is. So I think there's a mix-up in something. Secondly, I don't have to academically prove that Musharraf was claimed that Nawaz Sharif was trying to kill Musharraf. The chief of staff himself, on 300 occasions over a decade, on TV, categorically said that Nawaz Sharif tried to kill him. If he did or didn't, that's not my problem. But the problem is that the leader of the armed forces claimed it himself categorically on TV. And so if we're going by the word of the general, then that's what it is. As it comes to our relationship of closing up or being on the same page as the military, there will be never, ever will there be a successful government ruling Pakistan that can make any real change if they are not on the same page with the military. Yes, when we came into power, we were on the same page as the military. I pray to Allah that the next time we come into power, we come on with the same page as with our military, and both the government and the military can work hand in hand to make the right policies for Pakistan, first of all. Second of all, if the military helped us so much in coming into power, we lost over 40 M&A seats under 5,000 votes. If it was so easy and we were such big favorites, then rigging 5,000 votes, 40 seats we lost under 5,000 votes, surely we should have rigged them and put 5,001 votes into the other dabba and got it over and done with it. We would have had 40 more seats, and we wouldn't have to have this, this blackmail all the time in National Assembly with either NQM or 8 people going here or 8 people coming here. So why were we then? I can tell you, in Sindh, I won't name it, it will be unfair, but I have a very dear friend, a very big political family from Sakar, it's quite obvious. And I called him at night to ask him, Ya tum jeete ho ya haare ho? And he said, Ya Zulfi bhai, main haar gaya hu, the election. The next morning, he had won by 16,000 votes. And I asked him, where did he go? And he told me the area that he went to. So we actually lost seats, especially in Sindh, due to certain things. I'll do one more of yours. One was on human rights abuse. Like I said to you, that our tenure wasn't perfect. Most of the power that we mentioned wasn't a government issue. It was an army issue against them. Do we have any say about what was happening between them? No, we didn't. So if you can come to us with issues that Imran Khan or the cabinet of Pakistan did against any particular person, I'll put my hands up and say where we're wrong and where we're right. Again, I'm saying we weren't perfect. but we were far, far, far better than they were, or any of the PPP governments before, Noon governments before. Even I'll go to the extent that PPP actually was far better than even Noon, and even for custodial torture and everything, they put their foot down. As far as it goes with the Charter of Democracy, you know, I think you haven't read into it fully. The three main points that they wanted was part of their conditions were letting all of them off. So it wasn't just a democracy that we are all fighting here, that we have a free day of transparent election. It was like, let's come to the table, but we don't want you to pursue these 6 cases. Or we don't want you to pursue Mian Saab anymore and let him come back and so on, and then we will sit with you and do the same. So it wasn't a charter of democracy for upcoming elections. It was a charter of democracy, basically another mukmakal, what they had with the others, which we didn't want to be a part of at the time. Even now, I categorically stated that as a spokesman for my party, the only thing we are still willing to come to the table in, but it's the only thing we will come to the table on, is that we come to the table on something discussing the roadmap for a free and fair election on February the 8th. Yes. That is the only thing we will come to the table on for now. We have no reason to come to the table for anything else. There's nothing they can give us, there's nothing we can give them. We're far more popular, they're hated at the moment. What can they possibly provide us, anything else at the moment for us?
Thank you. Thank you for your talk, for the discussion. I'm so glad that I finally got to meet one PTI official at some point or the other, because I could never find any one of you in Islamabad. I'm from Islamabad. I voted for PTI. I voted for PTI, and I just want you to talk about appointments, and I'd like to ask you a question. Bajwa ki extension kisne ki thi? That came to bite Imran Khan in the backside later on, but you're not. Aap logon ki bahut galtiyan thi. What do you have to say about that? Number one. Number two, आगे इस वक्त जो हमारे मुल्क में हाल चल रहा है इकोनॉमी का, जो भी आता है पावर में उसको इकोनॉमी ठीक करनी है. कुछ स्वीटियां गोलियां बेचने वाले को आप हमारा फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर बना दें, या वो अपने मुंशी को या संघी को बना दें पीएमएनएन वाले, तो काम नहीं चलेगा. मुशर्रफ के जमाने से हम देख रहे हैं कि बैंकर कोई बैठा है, कभी कोई बैठा है. आप किसको बिठाएंगे? आप लोगों ने असद उमर को बिठाया था उस जगह पे, या मुझे आप एक दूसरी बात बताएं, या बुशरा बीबी बताएंगे किसको बिठाना है? Because this is the single most important issue. मुझे समझ में नहीं आया, जब रिहाम खान इंटरफेयर करती थी उसको तो तलाक दे दी गई थी. बुशरा बीबी शुरू से इंटरफेयर कर रही है, उनको किसी ने कुछ नहीं कहा. 7 पर्दों में बैठी है, इसलिए पाकिस्तान में 7 पर्दों में बैठ के काम करती है कि जो गांव में जाती है औरत जो फसल में बेचती है, उसको वो क्या 7 पर्दों में काम करती है क्या? अगर पर्दे उतर भी जाएं, किसी हेड ऑफ स्टेट की बीवी है, हाथ मिला भी ले, तो क्या गुनाह हो गया? साहिबा मुशर्रफ पे किसी ने तोहमत लगाई थी, कुलसूम शरीफ पे किसी ने तोहमत लगाई थी. तीसरा सवाल जो मैं आपसे पूछना चाहूंगी, यहाँ पे अपॉइंटमेंट्स की बात आती है. There was a commission that was appointed for the ring road scandal. I believe, sir, you resigned from the cabinet due to the ring road scandal. ठीक है? What happened to the commission? Why was it disbanded? What happened there? Why was the commission disbanded? And here you are talking about honesty, fairness, lack of corruption. इमरान खान इतना अच्छा है, ये हो रहा है, वो हो रहा है. मुझे बताएं, आप कैसे ऐसी बातें कर सकते हैं? इस हमाम में तो सब नंगे हैं.
चौथा सवाल है
मैं और भी बोल सकती हूँ आपसे, मैं और भी बहुत बोल सकती हूँ, क्योंकि हम तंग आ गए हैं. और मुझे निहायत शर्म आती है, आप अपनी बीवियां 7 पर्दों वाली लेके आते हैं और आपका लीडर ये बैठ के कहता है, स्टेटमेंट दी है कि जी औरतें जो कपड़े पहनती हैं वो भी उसकी वजह से भी बहुत कुछ होता है. पाकिस्तान में हालात देखें, भी शर्म आती है. हमें शर्म आती है औरतों के साथ कितनी ज्यादतियां हो रही हैं. ठीक है, हमें शर्म आती है हमारी
मैं उससे पहले थोड़ा सा ऐड करूं कि इनकी अभी मैंने करेक्शन थोड़ी सी की है. इनको ये भी नहीं पता कि आपने ये नेशनैलिटी छोड़ी.
मुझे वाकई कुछ नहीं पता.
वो कह रही क्या बोलना है.
पहली बात ये है कि बाजवा साहब की एक्सटेंशन गवर्नमेंट ने दी थी. गवर्नमेंट पाकिस्तान
किसकी गवर्नमेंट थी?
हमारी गवर्नमेंट थी. खत्म तो होने दे बात. पीटीआई ने दी. इमरान खान प्राइम मिनिस्टर थे, उन्होंने दी. and his logic and his thing. लेकिन अब आप मेरे साथ डिबेट करेंगी तो फिर बाकी
पहले
के
डिबेट करती
सवाल
हूँ,
आपने आपने जो सवाल पूछे तो मैं आपको उसका जवाब कर सकता हूँ। उस वक्त खान साहब समझे थे कि इस वक्त बहुत इंस्टेबिलिटी है मुल्क में, तो मुझे कंसिस्टेंसी हर चीज़ में रखनी चाहिए, तो लिहाजा उन्होंने समझा कि बेहतरी होगी एक्सटेंशन देने की। आपकी बात बिल्कुल दुरुस्त है कि एक्सटेंशन नहीं देनी चाहिए, and that was probably inexperience from our side, or maybe we just felt that at the time it was the right thing to do because it would have brought consistency. In hindsight, you're right, it did come to bite us in the backside. First one. Second one, as far as economy, if you look at any indicator you want and compare it to where Pakistan is today, in the 4 years, there has not been a better GDP in Pakistan's history for the last 10 years prior to our government. Who we're going to make as our finance minister, who we're going to bring in, is still a debate. We've got 3-4 very good options. We've got young guns in the likes of Taimur Jagra, Hamad Azhar. We've got old guns in the likes of Shaukat Tareen and others. Or maybe it's more, in my opinion, a far more technical job, and you need to perhaps bring a full-fledged economist from outside to fix the actual policies of Pakistan, because Pakistan is not an ex-banker coming in and trying to do a quick fix. The actual policies of the economic policies of Pakistan are flawed and restricted, and they always favor the sort of elite or the sort of the monopoly that happens, the monopoly mafia. So there actually needs a lot of structural change in our economic policies. It needs to be far more disruptive, and it needs to be far more market-based. The problem with us is हम कहते हैं, whichever government it may be, asked to someone else, हम आते हैं हम कहते हैं मैं construction sector पे focus करूँगा, तो मैंने PM ने जी subsidies दे दी construction sector.
But you did
We
focus
never,
on the construction
correct,
sector.
we did, and it flourished as well at the time of COVID. It did the best it ever did. But the point is that we should just let the markets dominate in Pakistan. Then wherever anything falls and the dust settles, let it be. At least it will be market driven. Third thing. Fourth thing on ring road. You're completely mistaken in every sense of the word. Yes, you are. And you are. Let me
Why
finish.
did you have to
Let me
resign
finish.
then? You should have stayed on.
Let me ask the question, unless you want to come here and answer the question. So the Ring Road Commission, 2 commissions were made. No commission ever got. I hope you're hearing this since you asked the question.
Yes.
That no commission ever got dismantled. I don't know if you have a form with you. You can Google it. No commission got dismantled. Every single commission gave a full-fledged 3 or 4 or 500-page report. In every single report, the facts of the commission were out. I've been out of government for 2 years now. I have a case on me of terrorism and God knows what else on me. I'm in exile. There is probably no person they hate after Imran Khan more than me. Yet, there is nothing that any government in the last 2 years could pull up even 1 inch on the ring road that there was anything wrong. In fact, the only thing that the PDM government said on the ring road is that Imran Khan or the PTI government is at fault not to build it, because when it does get built, which it has to get built because it's the only way to connect the north, it'll cost far more. So the cost of inflation from when we build it next to now, Imran Khan is at fault for that. That is actually the only thing that's actually been pulled up on the ring road. So there has been no dismantling of any commission. Every single commission has been sent. Nawaz Sharif or Shahbaz Sharif came into power. There is a full report from the Prime Minister office of Shahbaz Sharif on the ring road. The commissioner who was thrown into prison by us in the ring road scandal got reprimanded and became the energy secretary for Shahbaz Sharif for his 18 months of their government.
Yes.
And he is now another secretary in another federal thing. Not saying that I'm saying he's corrupt or anything of the sort, but I'm saying that they went into the ring road scandal and they absolved the entire thing. A government. Otherwise, that was the perfect opportunity to nail me. The reason I resigned from the cabinet at the time was simply because of 2 things. One, on principle, because I said that you can never ever name a cabinet minister on media and then do a report. So I've grown up in the West. Over here, when there's a flaw and someone is accused, the cabinet minister always steps aside. By the time that our report came out, our government only had a few months left, and the government changed it anyways. So that it was purely in principle, firstly, and secondly, I said it on TV many times that it was 100% it was a conspiracy by certain people around the prime minister at the time to make sure that I don't be as vocal as I am in front of Khan Sahib to remove me. And those people now either become approvers against Imran Khan, or God knows where they are and what they're doing. So those people have left, and the one person that was, or the 2-3 people that was accused, Chaudhry Sarwar was accused far further than me because he's from the area. He never resigned. Khan Sahib told me not to resign, but I said on principle I'll resign because I know these guys have done a conspiracy against me and I'm going to expose all of them. And hence I did, and Allah ka shukr is why I'm sitting here today.
So we'll have one more question, and can I ask the audience to have some izzat? Sawal ek hi puchna hai. At the very back, Ali.
अच्छा भाई मैडम को पानी दे दे प्लीज अभी पानी भी चाहिए
Sorry, what
Thank you, Mr. Bukhari, for coming here and giving us a talk. Your point about political continuity was pertinent. I myself remember working on the brand Pakistan project for a little while, hoping to see it towards the end, and then it didn't happen. And now
It was the best project.
It was the best project, I remember. I'm going to keep it short. So, in a lot of our political analysis, the endpoint tends to be the army. The army has this much power. This is what we need to do. In your experience as a minister, to what extent do you think external political powers, geopolitical powers, shape the political dynamics within Pakistan? And the reason I ask that is because I think in the history of Pakistan, maybe Israel, you can correct me, the military has always been supported by the Americans in relation to supporting the military for their objectives within Afghanistan and Iran. So did you find the same kind of influence in your tenure externally?
Look, Ali, I'll be frank. Unfortunately, the way that the country has been governed for the last 70 odd years, the only thing you have to offer to anywhere else in the world, to any other country in the world, is your military. You have failed, or we rather, as a country, have failed to put any other kind of footprint anywhere else. If you run through any of your allies, or brotherly countries, or Western powers, there is nothing they want from you apart from your military. India, on the other hand, has done an amazing job over the last 20 years building an economic footprint and building economic diplomacy with all the other superpowers. India managed to negotiate that they can buy a signed document that they can buy gas and oil from Iran. Pakistan is a neighboring country and can't even import gas in. Right? So look at the two different double standards that you got here. And the only reason is because we don't hold any other significance. The only time that you'll make yourself significant is that you have to start building yourself up as an economic power. And you have to start, I always have this argument in government. Like our foreign office, and I don't mean this wrong way, I'm probably go viral and all of that, but it's redundant. It doesn't do anything. Because you have a 20-grade officer and MBS has chucked you a $20 billion project. The guy doesn't know how many zeros are on the file. Right? So he is struggling to try to even put this project into actual reality. So what you have to do, and what our plan was in the bigger scale, and I remember you being part of it, was that we had, they had made in India and brand in India and all of that. That started becoming an economic power. So everything that India does right now, every single thing that it negotiates, it doesn't negotiate on its military might. It only negotiates on its economic might. That's what it does. And that's what as a country we've failed to do. We've only tried to build and do diplomacy on military might, let it be with Saudi, let it be with Qatar, let it be with UAE, let it be with the United States. We've only done that. There is nothing else between us. I mean, can you believe we call ourselves brotherly countries, but how much do we have going back and forth between us? Nothing. It's minimal. So until you have economic diplomacy, there obviously your only relation or only point of conversation is your military, and that gives military more and more power to be more and more influential. The only way to lessen it is for Pakistan to start standing on its own 2 feet economically. There is no other thing. The answer to all Pakistan problems is standing up on its 2 feet economically. That is the answer to terrorism, that is the answer to poverty, that is the answer to unemployment, and that is the answer of this overlaps between the political and the military space.
I want to thank the audience for coming here today.
Just one.
At least the students.
Okay. So the man in blue there. Yes. Students don't get a question.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bukhari, for the insightful and open conversation. My question is, you call for a second term of Imran Khan and the PTI, or inshallah, as I will. But my question is, what would be the stance of the PTI on the Kashmir issue if there was to be a second term? And if so, to what extent would the democratic governance decide that, and to what extent the military control?
Look, our stance would be the same as Imran Khan has always stated, that it be from the UN, on the UN platform or anywhere else. We want a solution which is by and for the people of Kashmir. Obviously, we wanted good dialogue with India. When Prime Minister Modi came into power, I was privileged enough that when he had a conversation with Khan Sahib, I was sitting on his right, and Khan Sahib straight away said that, I probably have as many followers in Pakistan I do have in India as well, and I want a relationship where one day I see Pakistan and India even being a place of open borders for trade. I remember Modi, Prime Minister Modi evaded the question and just kind of said, "Haan, congratulations," and all of that, and he didn't comment on it. And we wondered after the phone call that why did he just evade the whole question? And then later we found all the aggressive steps of not even our foreign minister in New York and so on and so forth. And then the articles got imposed onto Azad Kashmir. Our firm stance was that, yes, we do want good relationships with India, but until India finds a way of stepping back and revoking the articles that they have opposed onto Kashmir, we stand firm with the people until they revoke the 2 various articles.
We got a local community of Oxford here as well, and one of the brothers is a former Labour councillor. He would like to ask you a question, so I think we should give at least the local community a chance as well.
Thank you. Okay, so you answered Ali's question by saying that economically Pakistan has to become a power. The biggest influence or the biggest effect on that is the brain drain that we get. So, we get people going to Saudi Arabia, my parents come to this country. As opposed to other countries denying visas to Pakistani nationals, would it not be incumbent, or would you think it would be a good idea if we actually change that around and said, actually, we don't want people to leave and put a restriction on that? I know that wouldn't be popular, but over a generation, that would make the biggest difference.
Look, if you look at, we have about a 10 million diaspora abroad. 6 million of it is in the GCC, and 4 million is spread between UK, US, and Canada and other places. But GCC holds about 6 million of it. Majority of that is your unskilled and semi-skilled labor. The brain drain, you probably witnessed more brain drain in the last 2 years than you probably have in the last 8. The people that go out to work aren't highly skilled as such. In our government, we had if I'm not mistaken, about a 16% increase in highly skilled workers going out on shorter term contracts. During COVID, we had about 300 doctors that were sent to, or just under that, were sent to Kuwait to help them with the pandemic at the time. But you can't, the people that actually go out to work is I think this is a little bit of a myth that there's a massive brain drain. When our parents came here to settle, they weren't always, I'm not saying all, but most of them weren't highly skilled. So it wasn't really a brain drain. And then restricting them to in Pakistan and staying unemployed is more burden on the country. So it's a little bit of a catch-22. And I'm only saying that because I was in charge of it for a while as well. And I do agree with you. But countries like Iraq and all face much further brain drain than us because they, they witnessed doctors and dentists and so on going and professors going out of the country. What we do need to do, and I agree with you, is something that Turkey and China did very well, is that when a government comes, and again, I'm not saying it's us and I'm not saying it's Imran Khan, you guys are the people who should choose and decide. But when a government comes that you believe in, and you are in a position that I felt that I was in, of, self-reliant and economically sound enough, that I can give back to my country, then what China did was that it brought back over the space of 3 years or 4 years, it brought back around 206,000 people doing even 3 to 6 month stints in specialized areas, that would be their railway, their airlines and stuff, and they would come in, give a lot of knowledge that they've learned, from living abroad and being expats, and same in Turkey, and that's how they built their government to become far, far more successful. Our plan, obviously, is that when we come back into power, we believe, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, the majority of overseas Pakistanis are Imran Khan supporters or PTI supporters. And if you can build a good enough atmosphere in Pakistan for people to come and spend time there, let it be a 6 month stint, or let it be come and invest and bring in FDI and get back to their country, then that is the only way. Trying to force them right now, people that are Pakistani with Pakistani passports are buying Caribbean passports to leave the country. That's the situation at the moment. So it's very hard to convince anyone otherwise. Our remittances were around $33 billion at its peak. That meant people were giving back a lot. They felt trust in the government. They wanted to invest in lands or properties or buy plots or do something. And now at the moment, the remittances are $26 billion. $27 billion was the last statement. So there's been a massive decline. We're talking about it might sound only $4 or $5 billion in this part of the world is not much money, but don't forget, we're going around begging countries to give us $2.
That's right.
So this is I think the way, again, it comes down to one thing. You need a government, regardless of which it may be, that people have trust in and they believe that is stable. More importantly, even if it's Imran Khan, even if it's Zulfi, even if it's so-and-so, the biggest thing is you guys are intelligent people. It doesn't matter how much you love Imran Khan, but the next time he's here, and you think he's only going to be there for another 2-3 years, you still won't invest in the country. Because you're going to be like, yaar, 2 saal, 3 saal, phir se tum log jail chale jaoge. So you need consistency. This is why I kept saying is that it doesn't matter who comes in, but we must show to the world and to people that we can provide consistency. Good, bad, it doesn't matter. As long as consistency starts, things will start building from there.
I'm very sorry, but in the interest of time, we are going to have to leave it there. I want to thank all the audience for coming here today. I want to thank Mr. Zulfi Bukhari for visiting Oxford today. And we'll leave it there. Thank you.
Remain seated for a while, please, while the guests go into the green room. It's a very constricted passage, so we've tried to make sure that it's not